Good Saturday morning. My name is David Scharf, and I am here with the winning ticket. And right next to me, co-hosting today, is Clemson John in the house, live at DraftKings at Casino Queen. Good morning, John.
Good morning. How's everybody doing?
Oh man, up bright and early. Week 2.
Yeah, week 2. We had week 0, week 1 last week, and now we're at week 2.
And man, we had some fun a little bit last week. Man, you were in Anchorage.
Yeah.
We did a late night interview. We had to find, man, what an experience trying to find somewhere to do our interview from the airport, right?
Yeah. We had the Clemson flag flying all the way from Anchorage, Alaska.
So, hey, real quick before we get into our first guest today, let's talk about how do you feel about the Clemson game Monday night?
Well, yeah, last week was interesting. That Georgia Tech game. They ended up covering the 20. That thing opened early in August at 19. And then closed at Clemson minus 24. So it was a huge movement up until game time. And they ended up covering, but that's because of the defense. We thought the quarterback DJ Uiagalelei, where nobody can say his last name, but that's how you say it, DJ Uiagalelei. He had lost some weight coming into the year and, a little more mobile, had knee surgery, but my prediction, this kid is not as good as the backup, Cade Klubnik, the freshman. They put that freshman in at the end of that Georgia Tech game, and things just moved very smoothly. He threw about 4 to 5 passes, put one in the end zone in about what seemed like 2 minutes, and everybody was like, wow, this kid's going to be the future for sure. So my prediction is by the 4th game or so, that NC State game on October the 3rd, that's going to be where we see Cade Klubnik be the starter, I think.
Really? You think they're going to make the change that soon?
Yeah, I think so. They got 2 cupcakes. They got Furman today, Louisiana Tech, and then they go on the road to a stubborn Wake Forest team. Wake's got a good quarterback in Sam Hartman. And then they get NC State at home. That's kind of the first big game for sure. And I think he's not going to be able to hold back Cade Klubnik. Dabo's not. He gets a little nervous with freshmen, but I think this is a little Kelly Bryant, Trevor Lawrence situation where if everybody remembers, Trevor came in as the highly touted freshman, and he started by the 4th game. And Kelly Bryant transferred and ended up going to Mizzou. I think that's going to be this situation with DJ and Cade Klubnik as well.
Well, I tell you what, I want to switch gears just a little bit. We're going to get into that on our segment later in the show. I had a chance to interview Greg Peterson, G-Unit from Vegas, and we were on 590 last night at 6 o'clock. We're on every Friday night from 6 to 7 after Bernie Miklasz. And we had him on, and I want to play this segment for you guys because he is absolutely fantastic. I know that you know a lot about him, and man, he's unbelievable.
Yeah, I followed him for probably 5 years or more. The guy has a system where, and he's a big college basketball guy as well, but he'll bet the side and the total to every single game. Very interesting concept that he puts in play. But he has a side where he analyzes every pick for like 2 minutes too. That's very interesting. He'll analyze the most obscure basketball game you've ever seen.
All right, well, let's get to it. Let's hear what he had to say. David Scharf here with the winning ticket, and I'm here with my man, Greg Peterson, all the way from Las Vegas, Nevada. Greg, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, man, so excited to have you again. Last time we talked, it was basketball season, and, man, I tell you what, I first of all appreciate you making me some money. I like to follow your picks, and I like to make a few wagers myself.
Always do love to be able to give out a few winners, and that's what makes it all the fun. You got to find a way to be able to have some fun with it, and at the same time, grow your bankroll as well, being able to find that good balance. That's exactly what we're looking for.
Yeah, so last time I had you on, we talked about you're the only one that I know of that bets every side, every total. And is it, now that we're in baseball season, is it the same for baseball?
It is the same for baseball, and baseball can be a little bit more volatile this time of year, but the volatility actually has been to your advantage if you've been taking, like, what I've been noticing this baseball season is these teams like the Washington Nationals, the Pittsburgh Pirates in recent days, they've been able to cash as plus $2 underdogs. And as a matter of fact, if you've been betting these minus 300 or bigger favorites on the money line, you're hitting about 2/3 of your bets this season. Depending upon when this line's bearing, it'll be somewhere in that neighborhood. But if you've been betting to essentially win $100, so on like a minus 320, for instance, you lay 320 to be able to get back 100. If you've done that system, if you took every one of these favorites of $3 or greater, you're currently down about $1,500 on $100 to be able to get back. So I do think that that has been something that has really worked to my advantage, because I typically find a lot of value in underdogs when it comes to baseball, college basketball, football. You're able to go down the list. So that is what has been really helping me out this time of year. And now in baseball, we're finding those big, giant, demonstrative favorites.
Yeah. So one of the questions that was brought to my attention from a buddy of mine is how you make your own lines. I don't want you to give out all your big secrets or really dive too deep into it, but I would love for you to kind of give us a little insight on how would someone maybe in a beginner approach to kind of make their own line so they can find their own value.
Step one is always going with the old mantra of a team's momentum. It is as good as the next day starting pitching. Always taking a look at who the starter is going to be. Now, one game, you just take a look at the bullpen as a whole. Maybe you dive a little bit into the guy that might wind up getting the open 2 to 3 innings. Like, you're going to see these guys like a Yohan Oviedo for the Pittsburgh Pirates. It's guys like this where, to go like 3 innings, but they're not going to go your traditional 5+. But always taking a look at these starting pitchers, I think, is very important. And that is step number one. And then I think it's very important when you wind up setting these lines to wind up weighting these scenes home and road a little bit different. Like we'll notice with the Colorado Rockies. They've got a winning record at home this year. If you've been backing the Colorado Rockies at Coors Field, you have not done too bad for yourself. If you bet the Colorado Rockies on the road, you've lost your shirt. Right. It has been absolutely terrible what they have been doing. And it's been that way the last few years because you wind up going up to elevation. Teams wind up getting affected by that. Guys, they wind up living in that just environment in general. They wind up being able to adjust, and that winds up giving them a big leg up. That's a little bit of advice when it comes to football as well. Backing the Denver Broncos early on during the home typically has been profitable as well, but I think that is incredibly important to do. I talk about the bullpens, and you want to be gauging that as well, because I know that there are some bettors that are first 5 bettors. There are some that are full game bettors. I'm more of a full game bettor myself. Right. And there will be a lot of times where I can't wind up backing a team, even though I might wind up finding a little bit of an advantage when it comes to the starting pitcher, because the team's bullpen, I'm looking at you, the Cincinnati Reds, with like a 5 ERA this season. Right. You just can't trust in a lot of those guys. And then obviously looking at bullpen usage as well, because when you do wind up having like a 10-1 game the previous day, that's not necessarily the worst thing in terms of bullpen, because you're going to throw out there your less than trustworthy guys, a cast-off starter that needs to fill innings, whereas you wind up losing a game 2-1. A lot of times you're going to guys that you have a little bit of faith in, guys that you wind up putting into pressure spots, wind up coming into that game as well. So I think that is incredibly important. Obviously, taking a look at the lineup, how they wind up being able to perform against righties versus lefties, that's big as well. Who's actually going to be in the lineup? I do think that that's something that you always want to be factoring in. And I do wind up listening to a lot of managerial comments because after a lot of games, they will reveal, oh, so-and-so is going to be getting the day off tomorrow. You know what? This guy's been out the last 2 days. He's back in the fold. I do think that is something that you should be attributing to your handicap lines. I think that you probably want to be getting a nice start early in the season, trying to start up in like late, something that I would recommend, but it's something that you could certainly wind up doing for something like football, because you're very early on in the season, just getting data points. So if you're looking to do this more for a football perspective, I think now is a very good time for it. For something like baseball, you probably would want to be holding off until the next season.
So one of the questions that was sent in to me is, with you following so many games and betting every line, every total, is there an algorithm that you use, or are you individually handicap each game yourself?
I do every single game myself. I think that every game is its own living, breathing entity. And sometimes there are circumstances where you do want to weigh things a little bit differently. Let's use a little bit of a football example in the Jets versus the Ravens. On the New York Jets this season, I don't think that they are going to be able to make noise in the AFC East. But the reason why right now, as we record this, we're seeing the Jets at a +7, I think that there's a little bit of value there, is because we know that now if it's going to be Joe Flacco under center for the New York Jets. I upgraded him over Zach Wilson because of these certain circumstance. You gotta feel like Joe Flacco is going to want to absolutely lay it on his former team, the Baltimore Ravens. There's a lot of motivation there. That is something that I think being able to take a look at that might not wind up picking up if you wind up having some sort of an algorithm, because trying to have like revenge factor an algorithm and motivation itself, that's a human element. Have a machine wind up doing a human element like that, I don't think that you're able to do so. Now, a lot of this is based on the advanced numbers, what you wind up finding in baseball sabermetrics. When it comes to the NFL, things like DVOA, you're able to take a look at the advanced numbers on that front as well. But I do think that you've got to be taking a look at the advanced stats and at the same time adding a little bit of a human element, which is why I do wind up handicapping all these games by hand, all by myself.
Is there a place a beginner gambler can go to kind of find most of these stats themselves?
Oh, absolutely. I think that in terms of baseball, Fangraphs is tremendous. Obviously, Pro Football Focus, if you're a fan of the NFL. I know that they've been doing a lot more with college in recent years as well. Those are really good outlets. And then just any of the reference sites. By that, I mean Baseball Reference, College Basketball Reference, Pro Football Reference. You're able to go down the line. They do a very good job of being able to track a lot of this data. Team rankings is another one that I wind up going to. They cover all sports, and on team rankings as well, you're able to find past performance in terms of against the spread record, how teams wind up doing to the over and the under across all sports as well. Those are a few that I wind up using, and even ESPN has their own splits. I've been utilizing them quite a bit this year. They've really, in the last 5 years, been able to do a great job of being able to, for things like baseball, being able to take a look at a starting pitcher's home and road splits. They've been able to do a great job as well. So on even a lot of your generic sites, you're able to find a lot of the information. All
right, you cut out just for a second there. Are you with me?
Yep, I got you.
Okay, great. Let's talk a little bit. Do you do postseason or preseason prop bets heading into the NFL, or as we head into the playoffs, or are we looking at anything special other than daily games?
I'm going to be looking a little bit more at the NFL from a game-by-game perspective, but I am going to be in the circa millions this year. And on top of that, I did wind up taking a little bit of a position on two things. The New Orleans Saints to be able to make the playoffs at plus money is something that I did wind up taking, and also the Baltimore Ravens to be able to win the AFC North. As I see it right now, at current numbers, it's about a plus 140. I got it at a little bit of a better number myself, but those are two positions I did wind up taking.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I mean, we got to talk a little bit of St. Louis Cardinal baseball since we're a St. Louis based.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Albert Pujols, I don't know what's going on with him lately, but he's making it close. I don't know how much playing time he's going to get with a limited amount of games left. One of the big conversations here in St. Louis is, everybody's got an opinion. The only one that really matters is Albert's. But if he's 698, 699, your opinion, do you think he comes back to get the 700?
I think Albert just comes off as a guy that he would not wind up coming back to get it. And I honestly think that would be for the best, just because you would not want to see a guy winding up returning, just clearly chasing home run number 700. You wind up, if you remember the movie Mr. 3000, because I'm someone from the state of Wisconsin, where you wind up having Bernie Mac wind up playing the role of a guy that needs to get 3 hits, and it's just sad and embarrassing. You don't want to wind up having that. Plus, who knows? He could wind up having Albert Pujols land on like 698, 699. This doesn't include postseason, but I mean, let's say that the St. Louis Cardinals, they wind up being able to make a deep run in the National League playoffs, which I think is very much a possibility. This is a Cardinals team that, since the trade deadline, they've been one of the best teams in all of baseball. That Jordan Montgomery trade is working out really well for them. They've really been able to get great production on the middle of the lineup. As you mentioned, Brendan Donovan, he hits really well at home. I think that Nolan Gorman is going to be a star in this league for a very long time. Tommy Edman is able to steal bases. That bullpen has been dealing with some injuries with Genesis Cabrera, Packy Knott, and more of your long guys. They could use that to be shored up a little bit. But I think that this is a Cardinals team that they're able to make a deep run. So if I'm Albert, if he winds up landing on like 698, 699, I don't think that he winds up coming back. And honestly, I think that that's for the better, because regardless of how the rest of the season goes, he pretty much goes out on top. Not necessarily to do athletes wind up having that, because a lot of athletes, they wind up sticking around just a little bit too long.
I appreciate your opinion. We are we are as St. Louis fans hoping he would come back. I think that's the consensus here, that we would like to see him go to 700, but I think we really believe him when he said he's not coming back, whether he makes it or not. But I will say that he's making it close and he's making it fun. Every single game, the fans are on there. I mean, the stadium's packed here in St. Louis. They're on their feet every time he comes up to bat. It's so much fun to see. It's just so exciting just in St. Louis. And that trade, we kind of, Mo, our general manager, we second guess him every year on the trade deadline, right? Every year we like, where's Soto? How come he didn't come here? We second guess him, and look at what he did again this year, and we're a serious contender at this point. And I got him at, I believe, 33-1 preseason to win the World Series. Okay, so I'm a homer. I'm going to make that bet every single year. The Blues, I'm going to bet. I'm a gambler and I want to root for my home team. I got him 33-1, I believe. I think they can make a deep run, with that trade deadline move.
I totally agree with you. And I think that they made the smart move by not getting Juan Soto as well, because unlike in the NBA, for instance, where one guy, you would much rather have that one guy that is a superstar rather than two guys that they're mid-range guys that they wind up giving you like 15, 16 points per game. You'd rather have that guy that winds up averaging like 25 points per game. In baseball, depth is so key. Them being able to get Jordan Montgomery I'm going to call it what it is. I was stunned that the Yankees wanted making that move. I didn't feel like the Yankees should make that move. I think you'd be in agreement with me. Harrison Bader, a solid outfielder. A guy that, he's fine, but the Cardinals really needed that starter. Harrison Bader was a little bit expendable. Plus, he's played as many games as myself for the New York Yankees as well. That winds up playing a little bit of a factor as well. But, the St. Louis Cardinals, every single year, they don't wind up making the world's biggest move, but on a scale of 1 to 10, at the time you're thinking, this is a 5, this is a 6. I would say the Jordan Montgomery trade this year was a little bit more than that, but they always wind up making these moves that they're sort of mid-range, and they always turn out to be big every single year. Being someone from the state of Wisconsin, I have just enormous respect for the way that the St. Louis Cardinals wind up operating, because every single year, this team is in the hunt. And every year in which they wind up having a little bit of a funk, you don't want to count them out, because you know that organization is going to be firing all cylinders at the end of the year.
Yeah, we're a little hard. We're a little hard on the management staff of the St. Louis Cardinals as fans, right? We do, and it seems like we get a chance almost every year to be in the show, right? So we get an opportunity. Before I let you go, I know you got to get running. College basketball, not right around the corner, but right around the corner. What are you looking forward to most when it comes to this college basketball season?
I am very excited to see how some of these guards via the transfer portal wind up being able to do with their new teams, because it is a case in which we wound up seeing over 1,800 players enter into the transfer portal. There's a lot of the faces that you know and love now in new places. I feel like college basketball, in terms of the, shall we say, between the top teams and the bottom teams, it has become as close as ever by the transfer portal. I know that it's been put off by some people that some of these guys are getting paid. I do think that there should probably be a little bit more rules than there are right now, but it is good to see guys like an Oscar Tshiebwe, rather than go off to the NBA, seeing him back at a Kentucky. That is a good thing for college basketball. Guys that we are getting to know and love, we don't have to say goodbye after like 6 weeks of watching them in February in March. Now we get to see these guys for months. It's going to be great. And what I think is going to be absolutely tremendous as well. In terms of some of these totals as well, I know that you got some solid basketball out there in Missouri as well. I do like what Dennis Gates wound up doing in the offseason. I think that this is a Tigers bunch that I don't know if the NCAA tournament is reachable this season, but they're going to be significantly better than they were last season. And that's something that you're able to say for a lot of schools. There are very few schools I take a look at coming into the year where I say, man, this team is trash. There's a lot of teams where I can make a case for them being able to make a run this season. And that's what's so great about this college basketball season, because I do feel like most of these teams, they're going to be very competitive. There's going to be a lot of great conference games.
I love your energy around our Missouri sports, man. You're going to create a lot of new fans with this. Greg, I really appreciate you coming on. How can people listen to you and follow you?
We're now on every single night on VSiN, the Greg Peterson Experience. You're able to catch that I guess it's pretty much starting on Sunday and it ends on Friday because out there in the Central Time Zone, the show starts at 11 p.m., goes to 2 a.m. So we pretty much go very, very late Sunday night into very, very early Friday morning,
Right.
5 days a week. And then on top of that, baseball betting show along with Coast to Coast Hoops. Both of those podcasts, you're able to download them wherever your podcast, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, list goes on and on. Those are more specialty podcasts. Baseball betting show, as you can imagine, baseball, Coast to Coast Hoops, college basketball. So we've got everything covered there. And then if you're looking for any of those links, at @GUnit_81 on Twitter.
Hey, Greg, thank you so much for taking the time with us all the way from Las Vegas. Greg Peterson, thank you so much for taking the time with me.
Always a pleasure, my friend.
All right,
Thank
take
you.
care. All right, that was Greg Peterson from Las Vegas, Nevada. John, this guy is amazing. Can you imagine every side, every total, every game for all of baseball and all of college basketball every single day, every single week? It's unbelievable.
I mean, it's the probably one of, if not the most unique betting concept that I've seen. And like I said, I've followed the guy for probably 5 years or so, and it's just amazing
and profitable. That's the thing that blows me out of the water is he's profitable year after year. What I found interesting is, the question of the algorithm. Does he have an algorithm that just he plugs in some information and his picks come out? He goes game by game, personally, every single game.
Yeah, and he even has like a podcast that he'll analyze it for 2 to 3 minutes on every college basketball game. I mean, he'll bet like the most obscure games of like Alabama A&M versus, Northwest Michigan or something, teams that the casual person have never heard of.
I want to tell you what, last night I'm out and there's some people around, and guys, the college football game that was on was Lehigh and something Gibson State or something. And this guy's cheering. I'm like, how do you pick a side there? He goes, I've never heard of either team. I just wanted to be in action. I said, that's my kind of guy, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, I remember many years ago, a friend of mine, he says, who do you got today? And I said, I got Middle Tennessee State. He goes, what the heck do you know about Middle Tennessee State? Yeah. I said, absolutely nothing, but it's on.
Yeah, gotta have some action, and that's what's great about football season finally being here. Is we waited, May to June we sweated through the middle of baseball season in July, and then got ready in August for training camps and preseason NFL, and now we're into the good meat and potatoes of the first couple of weeks of college football. So it's finally here.
What's one of the things that have stood out to you so far in the first couple of weeks, or week 0, week 1?
Say that again, David.
I said, what has stood out to you? I know it's early already. But...
Yeah, that Alabama-Utah State game was pretty decisive last week. I don't know if that says more about Utah State. They won 11 games last year. That's a team that went to a bowl game, won 11 games. So I thought they might slow down Bama a little bit, try to control the game, but Alabama just, treated Utah State like they won 3 games last year, not 11. They were very convincing. They dominated the entire game. I think it may say more about Utah State, though, because they had an opener in that week 0 against UConn. UConn's supposed to be one of the worst teams in all of college football. And they kind of struggled defensively and offensively against a pretty bad UConn team. So I think it may say more about Utah State. Bama's going to be Bama, of course. They got the defending Heisman Trophy winner, in Bryce Young. So they're going to be Bama. That's why they're favored so heavily against Texas today. But yeah, Bama dominating Utah State so bad, stood out to me. We got to watch my Clemson Tigers on a Monday night. That was kind of a nice little, game by itself. There was no other games on. And, of course, the quarterback situation at Clemson's always going to be talked about. We got to – my opinion is we got to let Dabo kind of do his thing. He's going to take it patiently because he's got a true freshman there. But this kid, Cade Klubnik, he's ready to go.
So you say ready to go. Is he ready to take you all the way this year?
Yeah, the defense is really good. I mean, they've got, at least 4 defensive linemen that are going to play in the NFL. Miles Murphy and KJ Henry on the 2 ends. They got another one, Xavier Thomas, who's out right now with a foot injury. And then you got the 2 big guys in the middle in Tyler Davis and Brian Brzee. So that defense is, as good as all those Clemson defenses have been. We've got to see that Monday night. But, if they can,
look like it
if that
struggled a little bit in the
offensive
first half.
line, if it'll get better as the season goes on, Klubnik will step in the way Trevor Lawrence stepped in 2018, and they'll have a shot. They'll be right there at the end, probably.
The offense Monday night looked like it was struggling the first half.
That's because DJ's I like DJ. Great kid. He's done everything everybody has asked of him. Similar to Kelly Bryant. But when you got a kid like Trevor Lawrence that steps in, you got a kid like Cade Klubnik that steps in right behind him. You can't hold these kids back. When they're ready, they're ready. And this Cade, you watch that series that he came in Monday night, and it's like, wow, what a breath of fresh air. We probably have an answer on offense this year.
All right. We are live from DraftKings at Casino Queen. Man, I want to let you guys know about our radio show on 590 The Fan on Friday evenings, every Friday at 6 o'clock following Bernie Miklasz. Our first one was last night. Man, it went fantastic. And I can't wait to have you on for your weekly picks. We're going to have you on both, man. I'm so excited you're here with me today. Coming up next, we have Ryan Kinder is back. He went 3-1 last week. He gave out some winners for people to make some money, John. I'm pretty excited to have him back. He's back with us in our next segment. Man, if we could go 3-1 every week, and shoot 75%, I think we could make some serious money. I know it's hard to do; it's almost impossible to keep up that number. But what a way to start off! And he's back with us today.
It's all about beating the bookie, and we would love to.
Well, I'm sure they don't want us to beat them too bad, but we're here to help you. Make some money and get some picks in there, and let's go hit some parlays.
Absolutely. We're at a great spot to do it. DraftKings at Casino Queen is an incredible place. So.
Yeah, this is definitely the premier sports book in the St. Louis area. And I keep saying it. I keep saying it over and over. Man, I never thought anything like this would come to St. Louis. We're gonna have to take a quick break. When we come back, our football analyst Ryan Kinder is going to be with us. We'll be right back.
Domination. I've got a golden ticket.
That's a winner!
Welcome back, everyone. We are live here at DraftKings at Casino Queen. This is the winning ticket. My name is David Sharf. Co-hosting today is my man Clemson John, back from Alaska. And right in the middle is our man Ryan Kinder. Ryan, what's going on?
Good to be back.
Yeah, man, 3-1 last week. John, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, if we could pick 75% every week, then, we might need to reevaluate our career path. That's hard to do, but 75% will work every week. But we got 17 games between 11 o'clock and 2:30. So a lot of action to start off with. Main thing we're going to be looking at is Iowa State. Iowa's won 6 in a row. They actually have no offense though, because their defense outscored their offense, and they scored 7 points last week. So I'll let everybody figure out how that happened. But they won 7-3 against South Dakota State, and the defense outscored the offense. So they got 2 safeties and a field goal. So, we'll see if Iowa State can end that 6-game losing streak to Iowa. And we got Kentucky going down to Florida as well. That ought to be an interesting matchup. Kentucky's finally found maybe a quarterback. They think Will Levis is a NFL-style quarterback, so we'll see if he can win like a 35-31 game down there in the swamp, because that's what it's going to have to be. I don't think it's going to be a low-scoring game, because I don't think Kentucky's going to be able to stop Florida this year, especially after Florida pulls that upset last week against the mild little upset against Utah. I think Florida might have been underrated. Utah slightly overrated. But, we definitely have a lot of action to start with, 17 games to start with between 11 and 2 to 2:30. So.
Yeah, 3-1 last week. I went against my SEC picks, and that's where I went wrong. I think the SEC is superior, and I had, like he said, I think maybe Utah was a little overrated, but I thought I was expecting their defense to. I was really impressed with Florida's quarterback. Yeah,
Richardson's a nice spot down there. I think Dan Mullen was there last year. I've never been a fan of Dan Mullen. I'll just go on the record saying he's always reminded me of somebody that's kind of sleazy and kind of, whatever mild recruiting violation I've got to do, then I'll just do it. I've never been a fan of Dan Mullen. He, reminds me of the old Pete Carroll days when USC got in trouble and Pete said, "All right, boys, I'm going to Seattle. See ya."
Yeah, that was pretty quick, right?
Yeah, he knew what had happened the past 3 years. He knew what he did. So he went off to Seattle, rode off into the sunset, and said, "Forget about this whole college thing." So, it just, Dan Mullen reminded me of that too. It was a mess down in Florida. I think Florida, they've got their guy in Billy Napier. I think he was an old Clemson offensive coordinator. So when Dabo got the job in 2008, Billy Napier was the offensive coordinator. So he's an old Clemson coordinator. I think they've got their guy, though. Nice week 1 win for Florida for sure.
Yeah, I definitely think, not everybody can play as easy of a schedule as Clemson does. So, I was very impressed to start that off.
Here we go.
Yeah, like Dabo says, it ain't WHO who we play. It's HOW how we play. So that's what you got to look at is how we play.
Is that what we say when we have cupcake schedules?
No, that's just it is. It ain't who you play, it's how you play. That's why we can't be box score people. We got to watch the games. But I think my boys are going to be they're great defensively, obviously. Klubnik's going to step in the way Trevor stepped in, and it ought to be an interesting interesting season.
All right, Ryan, Mizzou today.
Yeah, I want to walk back some of those comments I made last week because I was a little bit of a Mizzou hater. I have faith in them, and I wouldn't even take the points. I like Mizzou money line. I really do. Kansas State, they didn't impress me against South Dakota last week. I think, Brady Cook's going to have to protect the ball. He was almost throwing better on the run, but if he can stay in the pocket and we get, establish a run game, I really like Mizzou's chances. We stuffed the run really great last week, and that's something we didn't do at all last year.
Yeah, if they force Kansas State to throw the ball, then K-State might be in trouble. I actually like the over in that game. I don't think Mizzou is gonna be able to hold Kansas State to 17, 14 points. I think this game's going to easily be in the high 20s. Mizzou's going to score points too. I think they're going to want to run a lot of plays, play with tempo, and score a lot of points. So I like the over in that game for sure. It's hovering around 53. I've seen it anywhere from 53.5 to 52.5. But, yeah, definitely feel comfortable with over 53 in that Mizzou game.
All right, so Mizzou's getting 9.5 points. You like the money line?
They're getting 7.5, I believe.
Oh, yeah,
7 to 7.5.
7.5,
Yep.
and they're getting plus 237. So you would win for every $100 bet. You profit $237. I can't wait till the show is over. I'm gonna go get in a little action. I like Ryan's pick there because I like anytime you can take advantage of a money line like that. What I usually do is make the bigger bet with the line and then a little smaller bet with the money line. I don't know what your approach is. It all in, or do you do something like both like that?
I like to, I'm a little bit of a homer with Mizzou, and I'm going to say I'm all in this week. These are the games we have to win. This should be, I think it's pretty much 50-50. They don't have it that way. They give the 3 points for being at home, so they're looking at them as about a 4.5-point favorite. But I really do like Mizzou's chances if we can establish a run game.
Well, you've been touting the over wins for the season since the last couple of weeks. I've had a lot of doubt, but I like your start, and let's see what happens after today. But you're right; these are the kind of games that they have to win to get the over 5.5 mark, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, over 5.5 on Mizzou was a steal, just a steal.
We're not there. We're not there yet.
Yeah, it was out.
It's early.
It was a steal. I was saying that in August too. It was plus 125, 130, something like that. Yeah, over 5.5 for the season win total was a steal.
All right, Ryan. I know you got some picks for today. Let's get in action. Let's go.
I like the Pittsburgh and Tennessee over. Pittsburgh let West Virginia score 31 on them, and I was not very impressed with their defense. Tennessee has a little bit better defense, but I really think that's going to be a great game, but I think there's going to be points. I like the over in that one. That is over 62.5, so it's a high over, but I still think they pass that by a good margin.
Yeah, Pitt just doesn't – they like to speed the game up. They don't play any defense. Tennessee definitely doesn't. Tennessee's kind of the same way. It's at Pitt. I like the over too. I slotted that as one of my picks as well. But I think that's going to be a trend this year too. A lot of Tennessee overs. Tennessee reminds me of where they're trying to find their identity as a program, trying to find their footing to get back to what they were in the Philip Fulmer days. They remind me of when Dabo started the program at Clemson in about 2010, 2011. The only way Clemson could win a game was 45-37. It was a shootout every game. Then we found Brent Venables, and it was just, a different program from then on. But that's what Tennessee's going through right now. They're trying to find their identity. This is that year where hopefully they can win 8 or 9 games. And, then look into 2023 for next year to find some, defensive identity and start building that program. I think they're on the right start.
All right, Ryan, what do you got next?
I would like to add on to what he was saying about Iowa.
Absolutely.
Oh, no, I'm going with what he said earlier about Iowa. They scored with 2 safeties last week. And if you can only put 7 points on South Dakota State, I think Iowa State, I think they'll be lucky if they can get over 7, that would be a great offensive day for them. They have the amazing defense, so I really like the under. And I'm going to also pick Iowa State in that game.
All right, what's the line in that game?
The line in the Iowa State-Iowa game is 3.5 right now, and I'm going to take Iowa with minus 3.5. No, they're plus 3.5.
Okay, Iowa State is plus 3.5.
Yeah, Iowa State plus 3.5.
And the over/under?
And the over and under is 39.5.
39.5.
And if you can
that
move,
is
if you
one of
can
the
move
lowest
it,
college football over/unders I've ever seen or heard of.
Well, it's Iowa.
Well, I'm just saying. I mean, how often do you see a college football over/under under 40? Yeah. I don't know. I don't remember the last time I ever seen it. Right?
I'm going to move it down to 21 and see if I can't get us the way
That
they're
is
playing,
what I'm
you know,
talking about,
see if
Ryan.
we can't
Let's
smack
move
that.
it. Yeah, let's get plus. Let's get 10-1 on our money. Move
Yeah,
it
you're
down to
talking
20.
about an Iowa team that their defense outscored their offense last week, and they had 7 points.
Well, when we're talking gambling, I mean that's what I love about coming down here at DraftKings and Casino Queen. You can go right to the kiosk, and you can move that line. You can move that line and get more plus money, right? So, is 21 a real number, or are you going to move it?
That's a real number.
So, are you going to go in steps like, move it to 37 and a half, move it to 35 and a half, are you going to take different levels as we go along? Or are you just going to go straight for it all?
No, like you said, I like to step it because that's usually the strategy. Because even if it hits 30, let's say 32, usually we can still make a little money. But if I think Iowa puts up less than 10 points, we very well could have less than 21 in this game. I like a 13-7 Iowa State victory.
I don't know. The first quarter line on that is 7.5. It's hard to think that those two teams are going to score more than a touchdown in the first quarter.
This is really interesting. I mean, I don't think that they're going to let you move the line that much to 21.
I don't think it's quite that much.
I
they'll
think
let
you
you
could
move
probably
it
move
down pretty far here
Yeah,
at DraftKings.
yeah, probably maybe 10. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't
maybe
know.
10-ish points.
Maybe
something
10-ish
like
points. You might be able to move it down to 30.
So usually they give you 14 points
Is it
on
14?
both sides. So
Okay.
that would be 21's a little exaggeration, but what they'll let me move it, I'm going to give it a go.
Yeah, absolutely. This is what I'm talking about. Trying to take advantage of plus lines. So we've got Mizzou plus. We could hit a big parlay here. We could take Mizzou money line, right, and tag it with moving that
Iowa State under 30 or something.
like a 2-team parlay. And we're talking. I don't know. We're gonna have to figure out. I'm gonna have to plug it in and see.
Well,
see
if it's minus 110 both ways on a
It's
regular
2.5 to
2-teamer, it's
1.
going to get you 2.5 to 1.
Right. So we're talking plus 237 and moving the line. Let's say we even move it to 35 and a half.
That'll probably get us another plus 250,
Yeah.
maybe, you think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
you're probably looking 10 to 1,
yeah,
I
10
think.
to 1
Yeah,
on a two-teamer.
Yeah.
And that's just moving the line forward. Does that sound good to you?
Sounds good to me.
All right. Do we have any other games that we like?
I got one more. I really like Baylor versus BYU. BYU seems to be overrated every year to me. We give them the benefit of the doubt, but again, they just play in the easier conference. Baylor, they were a game or two away from being in the college playoff last year, so they're not getting the respect they deserve being dogs to BYU because, Baylor's proven themselves. BYU, on the other hand, with Baylor, again, they're plus 2.5, but it's not very many points, but I don't need them. Take a money line.
Baylor money line.
Yeah, I like it. Baylor's very well coached. Like you said, they were just a game or two away from being in the college football playoff potentially last year. They played a Big 12 championship game against Oklahoma State. It was a very entertaining game last year. So, yeah, Baylor going into Provo, Utah to play BYU. That's going to be a very interesting game. It's a big home field advantage for BYU going up into the mountains there. But, Baylor's the better team. BYU's going to try to grind this game out, slow it down, and I don't think they're going to be able to stop Baylor too much.
All right. What was the money line again?
Money line on that one is plus 115.
Okay. All right. We're going to do a 3-team parlay. Now we're adding in plus 115, plus 237. And even if we don't move the line on the Iowa State game, now we got, what are we looking at here? We're looking at a huge 3-team parlay.
You talking about a 3-teamer throwing the Baylor in there?
Throwing the Baylor
right,
in there.
The plus 115.
150, right?
No,
115. So you got plus 115, plus 237, and let's just say we're minus 110 with the over/under. We can leave that line alone, that over/under alone, and we can play with that a little bit and move it. But what are we looking at on that 3-teamer?
I would say about 12 to 1 or so.
So now we're about 12 to 1. That's just leaving the over/under alone. Now if we move that to maybe a plus 200 number,
you're going to start talking about the plus 20 to 1 world.
The 20 to 1 world for a 3-teamer.
Absolutely.
I'm in, man. I'm all about taking shots. I mean, we can bet them individually, right? Because you have to. I mean, but this is what I'm talking about. Let's make some money. Let's go cash some, then take first flight to Vegas or something. I know you guys wouldn't want to do that, but speaking of going to Vegas, don't have to. right here at DraftKings, the Casino Queen. This place is absolutely amazing. Love being here, and I love the sports book. It just, man, is this seriously?
Yeah, if they keep making this thing better and better each month, then Vegas is going to have to step their game up and try to compete here, because this is a great place here at DraftKings at Casino Queen for sure.
I mean, seriously, take out the travel,
Yep.
right? Take out the travel. I mean, I'm a 20-minute drive right across the river. I'm in action, baby.
Yep.
Right?
Absolutely.
And one of the neat things is you can go DraftKings at casinoqueen.com and you can reserve for a 4-hour window. It's a $200 drink minimum. You reserve your own drink and food minimum. You don't have to drink $200 worth, but you get a spot for 4, and you hang out and watch a game. Where else can you go? Right?
Yeah.
And be right in the center, in the heart of things. It is first come, first serve for everything other that's not reserved. So I recommend go ahead on DraftKings at casinoqueen.com and reserving your spot, because this place is busy already and it is early.
Yeah.
I haven't been here on a Sunday yet, but I imagine it's just as busy, if not busier.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, and come about the 11 o'clock kickoffs, everybody's going to be getting those last-minute bets in, so it'll be busier and busier.
All right, Ryan, let's go to this past Thursday night. Let's talk about opening NFL game. I was on the Rams plus 2.5. What happened?
They forgot to show up in the second half.
Yeah.
They had momentum going into the second half. I felt good, and they just didn't come out ready. The Bills were hungry, and they jumped on them quick, and we never established a run game. We never really tried. I'm not sure if Cam Akers is hurt or what's going on there.
They didn't play him much.
3 runs for 0 yards.
Yeah, they left him back in Florida State, I guess. They forgot they drafted him. Yeah. Didn't use him at all. He was back with Jimbo Fisher at Florida State.
Yeah, they said he was healthy.
Yeah, I know many fantasy owners were looking forward to. He was an early pick this year, so a lot of people thought this was going to be his breakout year. And I don't panic on week 1. That's a mistake I've made in the past, dropping people week 1. But it's worrisome as a Cam Akers fantasy owner that you hope he's used in a different way moving forward.
Yeah, and if you had that Buffalo Bills defense, you got about 20 points probably in the fantasy world.
Yeah.
They had interception after interception all week. Everybody talked about that Rams offense and Stafford and the receivers and everything, and maybe Higbee at tight end, but nobody really talked about that Buffalo Bills defense, and they showed up Thursday for sure.
It was week 1. The Rams will be fine. We get too excited, but I will say that there's a reason why these line makers have made the Buffalo Bills one of the favorites to win the Super Bowl. They look complete as long as they stay healthy. That's with every team, staying healthy. That should be an automatic. But, you got the Super Bowl champs at home getting points. And I'm not going to say I loved it, but it was either betting the Rams or not betting the game at all. And I went with the Rams.
Yeah, I mean, you had the Super Bowl champs, of course, but you also had the Buffalo Bills in a team that miraculously didn't make the AFC Championship game. I mean, it took a miracle for Kansas City to beat Buffalo last year.
That was what.
And if they make that AFC Championship game, I don't know if Cincinnati is going to beat Buffalo. Probably not. So that's probably could have very well been the Super Bowl champs in Buffalo last year without a miracle in Kansas City.
Taking the fandom out of it, it seems to me like the AFC is a little more exciting to watch than the NFC. I mean, it wasn't always like that, but not that the NFC is boring. And of course, I'm going to watch as many games as possible, but the AFC is loaded, absolutely loaded. And like I said before, I think there's, 10, 12, 13 teams that could have a legitimate shot of reaching the Super Bowl. Buffalo looks good. I mean, anything could happen. It's a long season. People get hurt, right? But it's competitive. The NFC, we're talking about less than a handful of teams that have a legitimate shot of reaching the Super Bowl, right? Ryan, so let's talk a little bit about the NFC and your few teams that you believe have a shot to reach the Super Bowl.
Well, that's I wouldn't panic about the Rams yet, but they are in a tough division. I agree the AFC is probably stronger, but, the 49ers, they're to watch out for. If they can figure out quarterback, either one, whether it's Jimmy G or they move on, I think if they have good quarterback play, they could be a contender. But after watching the Bills, it's hard not to, I don't want to say too much about week 1, but I'm on the Bills bandwagon now.
All right, I want to go to whoever has survivor pools out there. I love survivor pools, right? I absolutely love where you can't use another team again. It takes a lot of thought. The way I do it is I like to gamble at least the first 5 weeks. What I mean by gambling is I like to take short spreads, maybe even a dog. I want to save my good teams for later. It's just my strategy. I'm going to be out a lot of years. And I'll give you for an example is I played one a couple of years ago, and I was in week 12 or week 13, and I still had all favorites and great teams left. And where I went out was when the Buffalo Bills were 14 and a half point favorites over the Jets. That was my exit out of $1 million pool. That was a tough one to swallow for me. So, Ryan, survivor pools. What do you like week 1? If we're gonna gamble a little bit.
If we're going to gamble, I like your strategy. I think it depends on how many people you have in your league. There's a couple for sure games, but if you want to get one out the way that might not have many chances to win this year, I like the Washington Commanders versus the Jaguars. I don't think the Commanders win, more than 6 games this year, but they will handle the Jaguars.
That's only a 2.5 point line.
Yeah,
it really blows my mind.
Yeah, I think, unless the Jaguars have made major improvements, we'll see. But I think, the Commanders handle them pretty easily. And I don't see them having a great season. But then you got one win out. And then, you're saving your better teams if that's your strategy.
Well, there's a caveat to my strategy. That's, you could have multiple entries, right? You don't have. But I'm talking if I have one entry, I'm going to gamble with it, and I'm going to do it if I have multiple entries. But you don't have to just have one entry. I think most survivor pools you can enter. I mean, they have a limit. Maybe it's 3, 5, maybe unlimited. Who knows, right? It all depends on which survivor pool you're in. But they're a lot of fun. That's one of the most fun season-long gambles. And then even if you do go bust, a lot of them, you can find they can start right back up. They'll start week 2, week 3, week 4, right? I don't know if you've heard of those, but that's so much fun for me. I love survivor.
So if they start over, when do they ever lose?
Well, okay. So it's just a different pool.
Oh,
it's just a different pool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, anybody who's still going from the first one can enter the second one.
That makes sense.
You don't have to be eliminated. You find a different one.
Yeah.
And so I love Survivor.
Yeah, I was looking at it.
I like it all. I'll tell you the truth. If you can gamble on it, I want to do it. So.
I'm a survive in advance guy, though. I just like this week Tennessee.
But what do you do late? What do you do late when you have to play?
Just worry about it then.
Well, worry about it then, and
survive
then
in advance.
You're gonna have to play. Let's say the Jaguars. You're gonna have to play the Jaguars week 16 when you're playing for a ton of money, and you're gonna have to hope that they're gonna have to be Buffalo, which has happened. Right?
Yeah.
I mean,
maybe not that big of a stretch. I think that's a little bit of a stretch.
I am. I'm going. I am going a little far with it, but that's why I'm not saying take terrible teams,
right?
But you only get to use them once.
Yep.
But he's finding a less than a 3-point spread. He's finding a good matchup, right? He's finding a good matchup. You lose week 1, well then there's other stuff to play. Let me tell you, we can find something else to put our money.
Yeah, I picked Tennessee this week in my survivor. Tennessee's playing the Giants, I think, so that should be a pretty safe pick. You would think the Giants still have Daniel Jones as their quarterback, I believe. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, for some reason. I don't know why they have Daniel Jones as their quarterback still, but that's not going to work out. So.
Ryan, you like anything else? Any college? I mean, anything else in college you like today? Is there anything else that is kind of maybe something you were looking at on the fringe about we can look at? Because the only reason why I'm asking is because I want more.
Want more?
I want more.
One thing that really interests me.
I am going to tell her that I'm asking for more because I like to go do 4, 5, 6, 7 team teasers, parlays. I want more. What do you got?
I'll take Vanderbilt with the 13.5 points. They look very improved this year. And again, Wake Forest, what he was talking about, some of those games with Clemson where they would win 50-49. Wake Forest's defense is just, they can put up points on you like nobody's business, but it doesn't matter if you let the other team score every time too. So I think it's going to be closer than a 13.5 point game.
Yeah, that line opened up. It's 13.5 now. That line opened up originally at 6.5.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how does it move a touchdown?
Yeah.
So what happened?
Wake Forest
Injury?
No. Wake Forest announced that Sam Hartman's going to play.
Okay.
And he's one of the bigger quarterback prospects in the country. So they announced Sam Hartman's going to play, and that's going to move that line from Wake 6.5 to Wake minus 13.5. So Vandy's an interesting team, though. Vandy goes to a terrible Hawaii team, by the way. We found out what Hawaii's going to look like this year in that game. They gave up 62 points to Vandy, and they couldn't. I think they might have scored 3 on Vandy or nothing, but they couldn't score on Vandy. If you can't score on Vandy, I don't know who you can score against. So Hawaii is one of the worst teams in the country. Vandy, put a bunch of points up against them, so I think they're going to put a bunch of points up against Wake. So the over in that game looks good too. I think the over-under, what's the over-under in that game, Ryan?
The over and under the Wake Forest Vandy game is we're looking at 65.5.
65, that's a big number.
Yeah.
But again, like you said, Wake don't play defense. Get a Vandy team that allowed a bunch of points last week to Elon. I don't know if most people around St. Louis know this, but Elon's a little small college in North Carolina that nobody's really heard of, and I think Elon scored 3 or 4 touchdowns against them. So they're going to give up some points against Wake too. It's probably going to be in the 35-42 range.
All right, Ryan. Listen, I know was kind of a last minute thing. I appreciate you coming down. You 3-1 last week. Let's see if we can get a repeat week and make some money, man. Let's go all the way. Let's go 4-0. Let's go 4-0. Let's move some line. Let's crush it. And then I'm gonna go start looking at flights, so we can get out of here for a couple days midweek and go celebrate. Come down here, cash your tickets, and make some more wagers, and then catch a plane to Vegas. What do you think?
Yep. My favorite pick of the day I want to throw in there.
Oh yeah,
is I really like Tony Ferguson tonight versus Nate Diaz. We have 2 legends fighting in the MMA world.
Yeah.
We had a shake-up. Somebody missed weight yesterday, and they changed the fights around, and we have 2 legends fighting tonight, and I really like Tony Ferguson tonight.
That, you know what? We haven't talked any MMA yet, and we really need to start getting in. Dude, you cover it all. Are you kidding with this guy? Let's go. Can you parlay that too into the football?
You can.
That's what I'm talking about. We got a 5-teamer now. We're going to crush it. We're going to absolutely crush it. We got to take a quick break. When we come back, the Winning Tickets fantasy expert Pete Sipple is going to join us, and we're going to talk all things fantasy. We got to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Domination.
I've got a golden ticket.
That's a winner!
Welcome back to The Winning Ticket. My name is David Sharp. Co-hosting with me today is our regular Clemson John. And right in the middle between us is Peter Sipple. Thanks for joining us, Pete.
Hey, Dave. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, man. We're gonna talk some fantasy, man. We need to.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we need to learn the little tricks that I know you know, and that's why you're here. Let's start off with baseball.
Sure.
I know we're getting towards the end of the season,
Mhm.
but I know you love to cover some fantasy baseball.
I do, yeah.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure. So with DraftKings, specifically with MLB, there's two different types of contests that you can enter. There's cash games and tournaments, and I specifically play tournaments for everything on DraftKings, so for MLB and NFL. And the easiest way to describe it is it's just like a poker tournament. So the payout structure is very top heavy. First prize is going to be, say it's a $100 entry, 1,000 people. The top prize is going to be somewhere in the 10,000 range.
That's a big number.
Yeah. It's definitely dependent on the size of the slate, but and so for myself specifically with baseball, I'm looking to be towards the top of the leaderboard, and the best way to do that is to stack a team. And the reason for that is you want like all your players to be on top of just for example, say you have Tommy Edman leading off for the Cardinals. He gets on base, you get a few hits. It's just a good way to accumulate points by stacking the top of the lineup. And the key stat that I use for stacking teams is it's called XFIP, which stands for Expected Fielding Independent Pitching. And pretty much the easiest way to describe it is it's just like ERA, but it takes out fielding and luck with hits. So it's just a much better way to determine who is really the worst pitcher on the slate.
So with that, can you go a little deeper into when you mean take out the luck?
Sure. So what it does is it incorporates strikeouts, walks, hit by pitch, and fly balls. So it puts a big emphasis on fly balls because you're, at least in daily fantasy, you're really looking for guys that are giving up home runs and then targeting guys that are able to hit home runs as well. So just for example, actually ex-Cardinal Marco Gonzalez, like this year, he has a 3.95 ERA, but he has almost a 5 xFIP. So what that tells me is, sure, he might be having some good box score numbers, but in my opinion, he's due to have some poor performances just based on luck.
So not to, I'm going to get off subject here just a little
Sure.
bit. So you brought up the name. That's funny. You brought up the name Marco Gonzalez.
Yeah.
So I took my daughter his rookie year actually for his. We went to the game. We did autographs the day before, and he had nobody in line, and he was pitching it for his very first game the next day, and I didn't even know who he was. But it was an emptier line. Matt Carpenter was wrapped around the stadium. I'm not kidding you. And this poor, when I say poor kid, he plays Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
But
Don't feel too bad.
No, but this is his. He hasn't even pitched a game yet, and he's sitting at a table. And I went up to him and I introduced myself. And my daughter, I can't remember how old she was, but it's been several years now. He's been in the league, and she got her first Cardinal autograph from Marco Gonzalez. And we went to the game, and he pitched excellent. I mean, and I'm kind of curious. I haven't really followed his career since then. And my daughter, she's grown up to be a Cardinal fan, just like her dad. And she asked me, what's he's up to, what he's up to these days. So who is he playing for?
Seattle Mariners.
Is he still with them?
Yeah.
So he did go from here to Seattle. We traded him, right? And so he's still with them.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
been
Mariners
several
are in the
years.
thick of a playoff hunt right
They
now.
are, yeah.
Yeah, but it's been several years, right?
Yeah. No, yeah. He's hung around there. So
Yeah, so I'm sorry to take you off subject.
Oh,
but
no, you're fine. No.
When you brought up the name, I was like, all the pictures you could have brought up, it kind of hit home for me.
Yeah,
with him.
yeah.
So it kind of sucks in a way when you can see that his value is not as strong.
Correct. Yeah. But I mean, he's obviously still, despite the underlying numbers, he's still put together a pretty solid season. So, I guess I thought it'd be good to give like a best stack today. So I know it's not great for the Cardinals fans out there, but the Brewers are my favorite stack tonight on the main slate for DraftKings. They're facing a guy named Chase Anderson, who had, I think, he had a 5.5 xFIP, which, for example, 4.5 is not good at all. So a whole nother run up is very, very bad. He had a 5.5 xFIP in 2021. He's only pitched about 12 innings this year, so small sample, but he's historically given up a lot of fly balls, a lot of home runs, specifically not very good against lefties. So I really like Colton Wong if he's in the lineup, Rowdy Tellez, just a few of those names. So yeah, the Brewers are my favorite stack tonight.
All right. So when we're talking baseball, how many players are you allowed to use from one team?
5 is the maximum.
And how many are total in the lineup?
That would be 8.
8.
So it would leave you 3 extra. So something that I like to do is stack the 5, and then with the second worst pitcher, in my opinion, I like to try and do like a 3-man stack if it fits with the lineup.
John, are you a fantasy guy?
Oh yeah, I'll dabble in some fantasy for sure. That's a good strategy though. If you've got those pitchers like that Chase Anderson going against the Brewers, or maybe if you've got Patrick Corbin pitching, you can stack a lineup against Patrick Corbin.
That's
any day of the
that's
week.
usually a winning strategy. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. So yeah, you can look at that and kind of stack those lineups against those types of pitchers for sure.
So Pete, it doesn't sound like a 1 point between the difference. It doesn't sound like a lot. Kind of reach on that a little bit. It's that big a deal, 1 point?
It really is. So I mean, if you could think of it in terms of an ERA, so say a guy has a 3.5 ERA, that's like very, very solid. A guy with a 4.5 ERA, he's teetering on being back in AAA.
Really?
Yeah. So
Well, it depends who you play for, right?
correct. Yeah. Yeah. If you're starting for the Pirates, you're probably okay with a 4.5 ERA. But that kind of leads me into. I thought I'd give my favorite pitcher tonight as all at the stack as Kevin Gossman.
Okay.
He's a pitcher for the Toronto Blue Jays. He has the second lowest xFIP on this slate behind Ohtani, which that's not too surprising. But he's almost $1,000 cheaper than Ohtani. So if you go Gossman, and Gossman's up against the Texas Rangers, who have one of the highest strikeout rates in the MLB. So you're saving a little money off Ohtani, and you get the arguably second best pitcher on the slate.
All right. So one of the things is now we put our lineup together, right?
Yep.
So different approaches, and we're going to talk about this with the NFL too, but specifically with baseball.
Yeah.
Do you like to play multiplayer, like 1,000 people, 10,000 people, or do you like the strategy of winner take all out of 3 people, 5 people, 10 people? What's your strategy in baseball with that?
Yeah. So my strategy is to find those tournaments, or they call it GPPs, so guaranteed prize pool. So to find really more like a bigger size tournament, because I feel like with the strategy I use, I incorporate some low enough owned players that my lineup is going to be unique. And that's really the key, and we'll talk about it. But really, my big things with the NFL is a lot of just which guys are high owned and which guys are low owned, and I'm really doing my best to try and avoid those high owned guys, because you don't want to be holding, say you have a few guys that are really high owned, you're just going to be holding hands with a lot of the field. So
I know the chances, obviously, when we're talking a small field of players in your contest, but when we get to a bigger contest, what's the chances of somebody having, or not, I don't need exact odds, but I mean, a lot of people seem to have close to the same lineups, right? So
yeah,
how do you have to find your players to differentiate your lineup, and you might take a lot of losses, but when you're right, you're taking it all down. You don't have, and it's not going to even be close.
Yeah, no, that's especially with MLB, because I'm sure John knows it's like just so high variance. It's like, it's unbelievable. Like, it's so different. Aaron Judge can go 0 for 5 and he's in the best matchup possible. That's just how MLB is. So yeah, I mean, this season I went over a month straight without cashing because with my strategy, but then like this last week I had a pretty nice hit. So it's just, it really just kind of balances out. But I just like to take the approach, if you're going to be playing these bigger field tournaments, you should really just give yourself a chance to win and just have the mindset that, hey, I'm going to be losing most of the time,
Right.
but I know that my process is right and it's going to get me there. One day it'll get me there. Yeah.
Well, I tell you, you know, one of my favorite things to say, and I'm a horse racing guy. You guys know that. And horse racing, I mean, if you're picking 2 winners out of 10 races, you're incredible, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you are just well, it obviously depends on the odds, but it's a high variance game, right? And it sounds like you just got to trust the process,
Yep.
right?
Exactly.
And if the process, at what point? This is one of the questions I love to ask.
Yeah.
At what point do you have to realize sometimes you might have to change the process?
Trust me, I felt that way about 2 weeks ago.
In baseball more than anything,
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean, it really just I mean, you're right though. You do need to be honest with yourself. With
That's
like,
it.
hey, maybe I think I have this down to a science, but maybe I'm not as smart or sharp as I think I am. So that's you definitely have to be self-aware when you're playing daily fantasy, and just like be willing to adjust a little bit. If yeah, kind of like a lot of things in gambling, just like having some self-awareness and being willing to change on the fly.
Yeah, you know, it's as a gambler, it's hard to have that patience, right? It's hard to focus on. I mean, I'm going to go Greg Peterson, but I can't bet every game on the slate. I can't play 20 different You can play it, but I can't play 20 different fantasy lineups. So you're going to have to get the information and trust and keep trusting what your process is.
Yeah.
So we're going to go to football in just a second.
Perfect.
But I like to educate people and so how they can do stuff on their own. So one of the tools that you had told me you use is Fangraphs.
Correct.
So can you expand on maybe somebody that wants to not only just like take somebody else's picks and help them learn a little bit on how to get better at what they're doing?
Yeah. So yeah, the Fangraphs site is awesome. It's very easy to use. It's free to the public. What's great about it is you can go on the site, literally just a search bar, and you can find every baseball player dating back to 1920s or before
crazy?
that. Yeah. So it's got, I mean, obviously it's not going to have a XFIP on Bob Gibson, but, but it's going to have like it's all the stats you need right now. And especially for hitters, it's great too. Haven't talked about it yet, but just quickly, like ISO is a really good stat that I use, and that's just isolated power. So it's just kind of takes slugging and a few other things into account. And so you can, like I told you, like home runs are very important in MLB daily fantasy. So yeah, I like to go on Fangraphs, and if there's a couple hitters that I'm hesitant on, I'll compare their ISOs and see who I'd want to pick from there. But yeah, Fangraphs I think it's the best tool out there for anyone that wants to play MLB daily fantasy.
Yeah, great information. I want to switch over to the NFL, and NFL fantasy is so much fun for me. I love it, and I don't think it's just not. I haven't learned how to be profitable at it. You know, it's very hard because you got to find those players that nobody uses or very few players use to hit it big, especially when you're playing in these like the Millionaire Maker. You're playing against hundreds of thousands of people. So let's talk about the different types of daily fantasy for the NFL, and let's go with that. What are the different kinds that we can play?
Sure. So kind of similar to what I was saying with MLB, there are two different types of contests. Cash games, which would be, say you want to just play someone one-on-one. They call that a head-to-head. So it would just be, you're able to like challenge someone, and say you both put up $100, then it'd be $200 up for grabs. So like a double up, and then they have also what are big field double ups. So say there's 500 people that enter like a $25 double up, and half the field would get $50 back. But like I'm the same way in NFL as MLB. I don't play cash games. I strictly play tournaments. Solely just because I think, well, and now with so much information available and so many projection systems, a lot of these cash games are becoming very, very similar. So it becomes what's called trains. So like so many people have the same lineup,
Right.
And so it comes down to like, so there's eight roster spots. Sometimes it just comes down to one guy that's a difference. So to me, that's not that fun of like, oh, okay, is like Tyreek Hill going to outscore Devontae Adams? And like, that's the only difference in the lineup. That's just not very fun to me. So yeah, I definitely prefer the tournament aspect.
All right. So which one? We could talk about Showdown, right? You like the Showdown, or let's start with Showdown. Do you like that? You prefer that model?
Yeah, I mean, I think Showdown's it's a lot more difficult. For me, I definitely put a lot more focus on like the main slate. So I don't know if John plays Showdown.
Yeah. So, I don't do much showdowning. I'm
By
not
the
much
way,
of a
by the way,
showdown.
real quick, I asked Pete Thursday day when we talked, and he said, because I like Showdown. I love Showdown, right? I just love it. Anyway, I asked Pete, who should I put in my captain spot? And what'd you tell me? Diggs.
Steph Diggs.
Yeah. Yeah.
That worked out.
Like,
But I also didn't play Cooper Kupp, which was really smart too. So.
yeah. Well, but you gave me the key, right? You gave me the key, and still didn't make any money because that's my fault. I need
it's really hard to make money at Showdown. You gotta get real
It's
lucky.
a little secret. I need the rest of the lineup too, because obviously I'm not very good at it. Hey, real quick, I want to back it up just a second. We're getting some great response from the chat. We got some questions, and one of them is, do you incorporate ballpark and if a hitter friendlies into your decisions?
Yeah, I definitely do. Also, shout out to Mark. He's one of my friends. So
I like it. Hey, thanks for texting in or chatting in.
Yeah.
Love it.
No, he's definitely onto something. Like Coors Field is a big one, obviously.
Right.
But you have to be cognizant with playing Coors Field because, like, a lot of people, like, they always have the highest Vegas team totals, which a lot of people use to make their lineups. So it's going to, in turn, be very high-owned stacks and plays. So I definitely take it into account, but I'm definitely mindful of where people are playing, and just because the ownership can get out of hand in those hitter-friendly places. So.
All right, value players. That's where I wanted to head next.
Okay.
How do you find them?
That's a good question. Are you talking just any position or?
Yeah, I mean, you got to find those little nuggets that really not saying nobody uses, but that not many people are using, right?
Sure. So really for NFL, the process that I like to do for finding value is to find some games that are up in tempo and up in pace. So for example, this week, I really think the Eagles and Lions game is going to be a little sneakier than some of the other ones and a little higher pace. I think the Lions defense is really poor.
Yeah.
They got a lot of holes. And so actually I think a good value running back this week is Miles Sanders. He's at a price point. He's at 5,400. So it's not like a complete value. But I think he's, from what I've read, the Eagles have one of the best offensive lines this year. The Lions have a very poor defensive line. And it kind of was what I was talking about earlier, being cognizant of ownership, because I think Jalen Hurts is going to be the highest owned quarterback this week. And so I'm going to end up fading him, which I do not like.
Is that so you don't share players?
Correct, yeah. So like from what I'm seeing, Hurts is going to be around like 18% owned. That's what I've been seeing. And for a quarterback, to me, that's just too high, even in a really good matchup. So I think Sanders is a great play because he's direct leverage off of Hurts. So say Sanders scores 2 rushing touchdowns, that's going to be taking 2 touchdowns away from Hurts. So that's kind of a stance I'm taking this week.
One of my favorite value plays was last year and you may find spots this year too, by the way, where you've got like Green Bay's backfield last year, where you had Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon coming in. Mm-hmm. So if you could get that game where Green Bay is going to be up 3 touchdowns in the second half, you could find A.J. Dillon for what dollar amount was he going for last year?
Mid fours probably.
Yeah, you could find that A.J. Dillon, and then he gets in the second half, gets those garbage yards, those garbage catches, those garbage touchdowns, and you're finding a lot of value in A.J. Dillon, right?
Yeah, definitely. It's actually funny you bring up Green Bay because actually probably my favorite, he's min price this week. He's my favorite value play is Romeo Doubs.
Okay. That's what I'm talking about. Here we go. I'm making my lineup right now.
Min price, baby.
I like it.
I think, and it's something else I wanted to hit on with NFL. Like, you really want to take some stances on rookies early on. I think you can really find some value in guys. Like, there's a very good chance he could be Green Bay's wide receiver 1 this year.
Really?
And he's
I guess
the min price. Yeah. Because Alan Lazard is out this week. Sammy Watkins.
Who knows?
Who knows with that guy? Yeah. So I think and Randall Cobb is 87 years old. So I think there's a really good chance that this Dobbs kid, I mean, it seems like Rodgers is talking him up. And, with a lot of quarterbacks, I don't coach speak, whatever. But for some reason, Rodgers, when he's like, yeah, I like this guy. He means it. And he throws him the ball. So it's a good matchup against the Vikings. So, yeah, Dobbs is one of my favorite values.
All right.
Is that in Minnesota?
It is, yeah.
Hey,
I like it.
Casey, thanks for sending in the chat. Which defense is scoring 2 tutties in week 1? All right, Peter.
San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah.
It's my favorite defense by far. It's also something that I like to do in NFL DFS is to pay up for defenses.
Okay.
Because they're always in this day where everyone's looking for value and projections, all these higher priced, because people want to fit in other players, so they pay down a defense.
Right. That's always been my strategy, and obviously it hasn't got me anywhere.
I mean, it could work for sure, but I just think there's so much upside, especially with the 49ers this week. The Bears are starting a 5th round rookie against Nick Bosa. Good luck with that.
Justin Fields is the Bears aren't. Say that again. You lost.
So the Bears are starting on O-line.
On O-line. Okay,
yeah.
Justin Fields is still.
Yeah.
But Justin Fields is the kind of guy that's going to run the ball against that Niners defense. Going to be outside the pocket all the time, so you might can account for a turnover there.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to be getting to him pretty quick.
Absolutely.
He could be forced, he's going to be under duress all day. I think it's the biggest lopside D-line, O-line matchup of the week. I really like it.
And when you say pay up, are they going to be at the top of the list?
Yeah, sorry. So, yeah, they're the most expensive defense. So, for example, I want to say football team, but the Commanders, they're projected to be, I believe, 20% owned, which is that's crazy for a defense.
That's big.
Yeah, and Chase Young is not playing. I think I don't think the Jaguars are going to be as poor as people think. So
yeah, what do you think about getting any value on Travis Etienne?
I am big on him this year. I took him where I could in season-long drafts. I think I believe he's around 6,000 this week on DraftKings. But no, I like that play a lot. I think he's going to have a very good year, and he seems like he's recovered. So
he can catch the ball out of the backfield too.
Yeah.
Hey,
He's Clemson guy or no?
Oh yeah, Trevor. So Trevor and Etienne.
I'll just see you later. Clemson's got the
I
rest
was
of
like,
the
I wonder why.
I did see the first run Travis Etienne ever made in Louisville in 2017. I went to that game, and that was Lamar Jackson's last year in Louisville.
Oh, wow.
And it was dubbed like this whole blackout theme for Louisville.
Yeah.
Biggest game in Louisville football history. And we put a little backup in the fourth quarter when we're up by 3 touchdowns named Travis Etienne.
Wow.
He touched the ball, went 80 yards, and Kirk Herbstreit said, "What an embarrassment of riches. Just an embarrassment of riches."
Pete, this is only a 2-hour show. We got a couple more questions for you. You are Mr. Popular with fantasy. Who's your favorite fantasy football rookie?
Favorite fantasy football rookie? I really think it's Dameon Pierce for the Houston Texans. They cut Marlon Mack. They really don't have anyone else in the backfield. There's a lot of hype on him in preseason. That he's really explosive, gets out of the backfield quick. I am worried about him. I took him where I could in season long. I am worried about him this week specifically for DraftKings because I think he's going to be a little popular. I'm seeing like 13, 14%. And I'm just a little worried that he's up against the Indianapolis Colts as like a touchdown underdog. I could see that game just being a little ugly, a little slow. So I'm big on him for the season. I'm just a little out of the gates. I might not play him this week for DraftKings.
All right, so that was the next question. Is Dameon Pierce the real deal?
He
so
is.
there we go.
Just not this week, but
Just
now
not
that I
this
say that, he'll probably score 3 touchdowns.
All right, Pete. Later on, when I'm gonna text you, I just want Pete's lineup, but that wouldn't really be fair because then we would have the same lineup. So maybe I'll just have to change one player or something. Because I want to share the $1 million with you.
If we could share the $1 million, I'll do that. That works for me. So.
Yeah. Right. All right. Is there as far as betting any games this week? Is there anything that you like?
I really haven't. I haven't bet anything yet. I will say I was seeing some interesting stuff on because I like the Bengals as much as anyone, but I was kind of liking the Steelers getting, I believe it's 6.5. I would like it to be 7, but I'm a little concerned about the Bengals out of the gate. Joe Burrow didn't play that much. I believe he had some sort of sickness, so I don't think there's much rapport with the team. Their O-line is pretty banged up right now. I think the Steelers, TJ Watt and those guys can put some pressure on them. So I kind of like, it's a little scary, but with Mitch Trubisky, but
right.
I kind of, if you can get +7 for sure, but I think I like the Steelers actually getting points.
Yeah, I'm going a little out there, but I'm not a Mitch Trubisky fan, but sometimes you just need a new place.
Yeah.
And maybe he has more talent than we've seen. I don't know.
What's
their O-line like though? What's Pittsburgh O-line like?
They're pretty decent this year. I don't think they're anything special, but I would think that anyone is an upgrade from the 3-yard slant passes from Ben Roethlisberger, but I would think anyone could do better than that.
He couldn't throw over 10 yards.
No.
Yeah,
no.
It was awful. And
noodle arm. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and Tom Brady still he retires and comes back. Tampa Bay, one of the favorites to win. I think they've lost some pieces. I don't understand why they're that big of a favorite in the NFC to go to the Super Bowl. Can you explain it to me? Do you?
I think it's just because, Brady still does seem like pretty good, which is crazy. Yeah. But I think it's just like their roster as a whole is still very solid. They still got a very good O-line. They got 3 solid receivers. Leonard Fournette is somehow still very good too. I'm not sure how. And pretty solid defense. So, yeah, I think just overall, I think they're just a pretty solid team.
All right. I like to talk futures and just your opinion. My pick just for value. Do I really think the Raiders can win the Super Bowl? Maybe, not really, but they're 40-1. And the Chargers are,
I like it.
Yeah, they're going to have to win one of the toughest divisions in football, but, or somehow get in the playoffs. But for 40 to 1, I'm asking, and I know I keep bringing it up, but I'm just curious, your opinion on getting 40 to 1 on the Raiders.
No, I mean, especially if they can get through that division, then I think they can get through anyone. So I like the Raiders. Their defense is a little skeptical, but maybe if they can shore that up. I think the Chargers are my favorite, though. I will say.
It's okay. We got a little comment here from Max Cash. I'm surprised Tom Brady is only $350 to go to the Super Bowl. Tampa Bay. I see. It is Tom Brady.
Yeah.
That's why he went there.
Yeah,
TB. Yeah, it is him.
TB12.
TB12.
TB12. Right? It's
Yep.
not even Tampa Bay anymore. Right?
Yep.
That's a 3.5 to 1. That's low. And tying your money up for an entire season.
I'm good on that.
Yeah, let's pass. Right?
Yeah.
I thought there was some value. I thought this is an interesting pick. It kind of comes out of nowhere, but Davis Mills for the quarterback props for the year.
Mm-hmm.
I think his yearly touchdowns was 20 to 20 and a half, something like that.
Wow.
That's a very low number. I mean,
It
it
is.
is Davis Mills and the Texans. And,
Yeah.
they're going to win probably 4 games if they're lucky.
Yeah.
But 20 and a half,
I
I think that's going to get home for the over.
I agree. I mean they have a few solid pieces around them. Brandon Cook's still very good. Brevin Jordan is a tight end that I'm pretty high on this year, actually. I think the Texans will be probably playing from behind a lot, which means, seriously, it's good.
Yeah, he's gonna
have to throw the ball
Right.
a lot. So I like that. I like that bet.
Yeah, there's 17 games now too, not 16.
True.
Yeah, and I kind of forgot the Texans were still in the league.
Yeah, it's been a dumpster fire ever since they traded DeAndre Hopkins to Arizona for a bag of potato chips and a soda to be named later.
Bill, what was the name of the coach?
Bill O'Brien.
Yeah, Bill O'Brien. Is he anywhere?
Is he still in Alabama with Saban?
I'm
No,
not
I don't
sure.
So he was last year.
He was last year.
Yeah.
So that was a disaster. They
As
traded
ownership,
DeAndre
how do you
Hopkins
let
for
that happen?
Nothing.
How do you let that happen as ownership? How do you let him go?
I don't know. Crazy.
It doesn't make sense to me,
No.
right?
It's been a disaster. And then they
big.
criticized Deshaun for saying that he wants out after he signs the contract. Everybody says, well, why did you sign an extension if you wanted out of Houston? Well, one thing I don't think everybody thinks about is when you're a kid coming from the inner cities, growing up kind of low income, you take the money and you figure out everything else later.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it makes
So,
sense.
Yeah, take the money and figure it out later. But you can't blame Deshaun for wanting out of Houston.
Oh no.
I mean, the ownership
Not at
was
all.
terrible. The management was terrible. It's, just a frustrating situation. Because I liked watching, obviously, as a Clemson fan, I like watching Deshaun and DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, Pete, thank you so much for taking the time out this
Yeah,
morning
you're
and
welcome.
joining us. I hope you come back.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Thanks, Sean.
Everybody, Pete Sipple, the winning ticket fantasy expert. I enjoyed this so much.
Yeah, it was a
right?
blast. It was a
I can't
blast.
wait for you to come back and let's
Yeah.
do some more.
Sounds
All right,
good.
we got to take a quick break. When we come back, it's Clemson giving out his picks for today. We'll be right back.
Domination, domination, domination.
I've got a golden ticket.
That's a winner!
Welcome back to the winning ticket, everyone.
Hello, hello.
We are here. Are we on? No. We're not on.
Hello, 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 hello. Hello, 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 hello. Hello. Into the mic. Hello, 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 hello. Okay.
All right, you guys are ready? We're ready. Welcome back to the winning ticket, everyone. My name is David Scharf, and with me today, co-hosting, is my man Clemson John. John, it's you and I now. It is time to get our gamble on, and let's go over some college games today. Let's get it going. What do you like?
Yeah. We'll have the first set of 11 o'clock Central start time games here in St. Louis. So, we talked earlier about the Wake Vanderbilt game with Ryan. That line's moved from 6.5 to 13.5 now. Big line movement, over under 65. That's going to be a high scoring game. I'm not sure about the 13.5 now. I think the safer play is going to be the over, because if Vanderbilt couldn't really stop Elon last week the way they should have, then I don't know how they're going to stop Sam Hartman and Wake Forest. So I would be more than satisfied taking over 68, 69 points, but this is 65. So we'll take over 65 for the Wake Forest Vandy game. And then, going down the list, we've got Ohio State playing the Cupcake in Arkansas State. This is a big line. I'm going to stay away from this game because I think that 44.5 is just too big of a line. There's really no value in the first half either. But, we're going to stay away from the Ohio State Arkansas State game. And then Miami, some people are claiming that the Miami Hurricanes are back. But, we'll wait and see. I think Mario Cristobal is, a good guy for him. I think they may have finally got the coach that could turn it around. Mario Cristobal came in for Miami and stopped that turnover chain nonsense. He said it's just not going to be part of our program. You don't win football games with turnover chains. So I kind of like that about him. So he's kind of a no-nonsense guy. That's what Miami needs. And this NIL stuff with Miami's alumni base, that's really going to help their program. So they're minus 27. I'd feel comfortable laying, up to 31 points against Southern Miss today. So I'll take Miami minus 27. And moving on, we got Penn State, Ohio. The Bobcats going to Penn State. So this one's 28. I don't think Penn State's going to be able to cover 28 points against a lot of teams this year, Ohio being one of them. It's a short trip from Ohio to College Station, PA. So I think that Penn State plus Ohio plus 28 is easily going to be able to cover 28 points against Penn State. So we'll go Ohio plus 28 points for that next pick. And then the next game is
say that one more
North
time.
Carolina, Georgia State.
Say that one more time. Ohio State?
Yeah, we've got Ohio plus 28.
Ohio.
Yeah, I don't think Penn State's going to be able to cover 28 points against a lot of teams this year. And actually, they're going to College Station. I got Texas A&M on my mind. They're going to Happy Valley in Pennsylvania. But North Carolina, Georgia State. This is a very interesting game because the most interesting game of the first 2 weeks of college football was, I think, last week in App State and North Carolina. The way that game finished was bonkers. Yeah. They scored like 3 touchdowns in the last minute.
Yeah,
it was insane. North Carolina's defense is, I think they got Casper the Ghost starting at linebacker. So they're just not going to have any defense this year. Between Casper the Ghost and, the Elephant Man at defensive back, I don't think they're going to have any defense. So Georgia State can score some points too. They're kind of a Sun Belt team that, didn't look good against South Carolina last week, but a bunch of special teams and fluky things happened against the Gamecocks last week. So I think they're going to score points against North Carolina. And North Carolina is, of course, going to score points with their quarterback, May, that they've got. So I think over 64.5 on that game would be good. And then we got Alabama, Texas. This is a difficult game to pick. For Texas to have a shot, they don't have much of a run game. So for Texas to have a shot, it's going to be disproportionately put on Quinn Ewers' shoulders. The transfer from Ohio State going back to Austin, Texas, where he's from Texas. He couldn't play at Ohio State because C.J. Stroud won the job. So he's going back to Texas. And I think for Texas to keep this game close, he's going to have big numbers. It's going to be put all on him because they don't have much of a running game. They do have a star wide receiver at Texas, though. And if he can get the ball to Xavier Worthy, then Texas may have a shot to keep this game close and cover it. But I just don't see it happening. I think Quinn Ewers is going to be running for his life with Will Anderson and that defensive line chasing him. But 21 points is a lot to lay. It's a big number, so I'm staying away from it. I'm not going to pick either the total or the spread with this one, so we're going to stay away from it. I just think it's very interesting that Quinn Ewers is back in Texas now, so we'll see what the hometown kid can do for Steve Sarkisian in Texas. That's an 11 o'clock kick, too, Central Time.
Yeah, we're getting close.
Huh?
19 minutes.
Yeah. That's an 11 o'clock kick. And then going down the list, we've got Arkansas, South Carolina. So the Gamecocks go into Fayetteville. I think that the over 56 is the play here. Arkansas's defensive backfield is awful. It's really hurting. They've had an injury or two, and I just think South Carolina's going to score some points. Arkansas is not going to hold up either. South Carolina's not going to stop them. So this game's going to be 30-something, 40-something. I'd take it all the way into the mid-60s. They've got it at 56, which I don't know why. I'd take it in the mid-60s. And another game that I like is kind of flying under the radar here is UTSA and Army. So you look at it and you say UTSA, it's kind of an obscure team, you think?
Yeah, for sure.
But they put up a dogfight against Houston last week. Houston went in that game as everybody thought they were going to handle UTSA. They didn't. That game went into triple overtime. They were alternating 2-point conversions. That's the new rule. Is if it goes into a third overtime, they just go for 2, and the game ends that way.
Yeah.
So UTSA took them to triple overtime.
I like that. I mean, how long do you want them to go for? Forever?
I get it. I don't want it to happen in the playoffs, though.
Well,
I don't want a college football playoff game being decided by alternate 2-point conversions.
So let me ask you a question. There's different rules, different sports, right? So the overtime in hockey is different in the playoffs than it is in the regular season. They go by shootout, and then in the playoffs they play the game out, right? So what would you do different? How would you?
What would I do different with the overtime system? I wouldn't do alternating 2-point conversions. I might kick the ball off and then do the next score, maybe. I don't like alternating 2-point conversions at all, though. It's just kind of a fluky way to decide important games. I'd maybe kick the ball off after the third overtime or something, but it's just kind of fluky. But UTSA is -2.5 against Army. And Coastal Carolina looked good against Army last week. I think UTSA has a very athletic quarterback, and I think they're going to put up points against Army. So I like UTSA -2.5 here. And then Marshall Notre Dame's an interesting game. Marshall going to Notre Dame, of course. Notre Dame laying 20.5. I don't know if Marshall's going to score a lot of points. I'm anxious to see what Notre Dame's offense looks like against a average to below average team that Marshall has. So we'll see if Notre Dame has any offense this week. I'm not going to touch that game, but it's -20.5. Now, a game that I love this week is App State and Texas A&M.
I love.
Yeah,
I love.
App State, Texas A&M.
This means money in action.
Yeah.
So let's get to it.
Yeah. App State is going to score some points. Everybody's on Texas A&M's bandwagon this year because of the recruiting classes. Jimbo's in his what feels like his 10th year, but I think it's only his about 4th or 5th year. But yeah, it seems like Jimbo's been there forever. He had an interesting exit at Florida State, by the way. We'll get into that on another show maybe. But yeah, App State's getting 18 to 19 points depending on where you book it. So I think App State plus 18 to 19 points is a big line. They're going to score some points against Texas A&M. I know A&M last week only scored 31 points against Sam Houston State, whoever that is, right? But it was kind of a rain. It was not rain delay. I'm still thinking baseball, but it was a lightning delay and weather delay in A&M down in College Station. So it's kind of a fluky way to start, stop all the time. But their offense didn't look impressive against Sam Houston State. So I think it's going to be a shootout. I think App State's going to score 3-4 touchdowns. So I don't like A&M covering that at all. So take App State plus 18 to 19 points. And then Ryan touched on this earlier. I think a lot of people are going to be in this mode, but Tennessee, Pittsburgh always scores high points. Tennessee is not a defensive team. Tennessee scores a lot of points no matter who they play. So take that over 62. People wouldn't be surprised if that game finishes in the mid 70s, if that's 35-40 in that kind of final score. But a lot of Tennessee overs this year, David.
Well, I want to tell you when I got both of you on agreeing on something, that's a bigger bet for me.
Yeah.
And it seems to work. In the last 10 months we've been doing this, anytime, with basketball, when you were on with Noah and when you guys agreed on something or you guys like the same thing, that's the time to bet more as far as I'm concerned, right?
Yeah.
Because you both are very good at what
it's
you
logical
do.
to think that Tennessee's going to put up points. Pittsburgh's going to put up points because Tennessee has no defense. And then the transfer quarterback for Pitt, Slovis, he's going to put up points against Tennessee for sure. He put up, I think, 5 touchdowns against West Virginia in the opener in week 0. So there's no reason to think that he won't put up points today. So take that over there. And then we touched on Iowa State and Iowa a little. This line is just 40 points is a low number.
But I'm going to tell you, I don't know if I've seen a college football game under 40 points.
Well, they scored 7 against South Dakota State. I mean, it's 7.
I don't want to watch that game.
Oh,
I mean,
7.
I talked about this on 590 last night. Is as long as I'm winning, it's a great game. But as far as somebody just to watch a game, I don't want to watch a college football game with the over-unders 40 points. I might bet it, but I'm not looking forward to it unless you're a fan.
Yeah,
it's not one I'm turning.
You could have a game like we had those old. I mean, this is going back 8, 9, 10 years, but if you remember, we had those Alabama LSU games every year that was 9-6.
Yeah.
But that was not because we didn't have offense. It was because those two teams were loaded with defense.
Yeah.
You could have put a college football all-star offense against those defenses. Good luck getting 3 touchdowns against that. But, yeah, if you got great defenses, I like to watch those 12-7 games or stuff like that if you got great defenses and some good offenses. But with the Iowa State game, they don't have any offenses. Their problem. If you can't score more than if you can't get in the end zone against South Dakota State and your defense outscores your offense by 2 safeties and your offense gets a field goal and you get 7 points out of that, then you have no offense whatsoever. So I feel your pain, David.
Yeah.
That can be a brutal game to watch, but 40's really low.
Ryan liked the under.
Yeah, I know it's Iowa State, and it's going to be ugly. I'm just afraid of them getting in that fourth quarter and trying to go real fast and exchange some scores. It's a really low line. I think I'm probably going to stay away from it. If I did anything, I'd probably take under 7.5.
For the first quarter.
A first quarter line under 7.5. You're getting that half, so they score a touchdown, you're good. Considering Iowa didn't give up a touchdown and didn't score a touchdown last week, I'd feel pretty safe with that one.
All right.
But I'm going to stay away from that one.
John.
And then we got a little hometown flavor here with this next pick.
What do you got?
Virginia, Illinois.
Oh, yeah. Here we go.
Virginia, Illinois. Tony Elliott, the old Clemson offensive coordinator and Clemson wide receiver in the early 2000s. He's coaching at Virginia now. He's Virginia's head coach. So he gets his first head coaching gig. going to Illinois to play this week. I like Virginia plus 4.5. You might can get it at 5 in some places, but it's anywhere from 4 to 5. I think it's looking at 4.5 most places right now. So I'm taking Virginia plus 4.5 on the road here. Illinois struggled offensively. They got the transfer from Syracuse and DeVito at quarterback. So I think it's going to take some time. Illinois is going to get better as the year goes on. So I think Virginia plus 4.5 is going to be a pick there. And if that's is that a 2:30? Yeah, that's a 3 o'clock Central start. So we're getting into the afternoon games now.
Yeah, we got about 8 minutes left, John. So if we can if we can make it through, great. If not, let's narrow it down to what you like.
Well, looking at the 3 o'clock games to kind of finish here, I think that Old Dominion beat Virginia Tech last week. Pretty big upset there, but
huge.
ODU is one of the best teams in their division. So I think getting 13 points against East Carolina, I'll take ODU plus 13. East Carolina almost upset NC State last week. East Carolina missed a field goal at the end of regulation to beat NC State. So I think getting 13 points for ODU is good. I think they're putting too much stock in East Carolina. I don't think they're as good as last week portrayed them being. So we'll take 13 points plus the 13 with ODU. And moving into the night games, we've got Arizona State and Oklahoma State.
That's what I'm talking about. Come on.
Yeah,
I'm a
I know
homer.
you're an ASU guy.
Yeah, I'm an ASU.
I know
guy.
you're an ASU guy. Oh, Herm Edwards, the fighting Herm Edwards.
I'm not a big fan of Herm Edwards.
Yeah, why not?
No, I don't know. I don't like the fit. That's it. I'm not getting into it.
But it is ASU. I mean, I don't know, who do you expect them to get? It's kind of like when they got rid of Lovie Smith at Illinois. It's like, who do we expect them to get? Brett Bielema was like a home run hire. It is ASU. I don't know who they can get. I don't know. It's Hermie. Don't
downplay the Sun Devils here. You got. I'm a homer. What do you mean? This is where I spent a lot of my adult life out there. I went to college there, so I'm going to be all right. Lay it on me. Come on. Even if you're going against them, lay it on.
I like Oklahoma State minus the 12 here.
Yeah. Okay.
Oklahoma State, they're at home.
This is a layoff for me. I'm just not going to bet the game.
Oklahoma State's at home. Arizona State lost their quarterback, Daniels. He transferred to LSU, which he didn't look good in that opener against Florida State. But, I'm taking Oklahoma State minus 12 there. And then we go to the West Coast kind of ABC game of the week is USC Stanford. Now, of course, everybody's looking at USC saying, Lincoln Riley leaves Oklahoma, goes to USC to coach, brings the quarterback with him. They had a great opener, although it was against Rice. Rice is more of they're not much of a college. They're more of like a starch or something, But, USC just laid it on Rice, though. They had Rice for dinner. So I'm going to take USC minus 9 against Stanford. USC should put up probably 40 points. Lincoln Riley loves to go 100 miles an hour if he does anything. So USC minus 9 should be a good pick there. And this is an interesting line here. I just want to talk about this line here. Michigan minus 52 against Hawaii.
That's an enormous line.
Minus 52. So I touched on earlier when Ryan was on.
Why do they real quick? Why do they even play these games? Seriously, I know it's about the money, but
yeah, it's a big check for those schools.
Yeah, I understand.
Kind of like Clemson's playing Furman this week,
but it's not. I don't understand these games.
It's just kind of traditional, kind of how it's always.
I get
been.
It, but it's hard.
It's regional, too.
But it's hard to suit up for those games, right? I mean,
well, yeah, but not if you're a player.
Well, that's what. But even as a player, you can't really believe that you're going to win.
You got to think about it too. I think. Let's take Clemson for example, because I know it the most. Obviously, they got probably 110, 109 players. Let's say something like that. So when you get up on these guys and pound them 35-0 at halftime, now you get the other players some experience.
Right.
And now when you need them to play, they're ready to play. But Yeah, I mean, that's why you get these games because, it helps the other schools. And, you're playing 12 games, you're going to have those two to three cupcakes. That's just how it's always been. But 52 points against probably the worst team in all of football. Hawaii might take UConn's spot this year as the worst team in all of football. They are awful. They got a new coach, an old quarterback, Timmy Chang. He's at Hawaii coaching now, and they're just in a world of hurt. I don't know if I'm going to take 52, but that's a big line. Michigan minus 52. And then the get-even game of the week, Hawaii's on the road.
That's this, the get even or get even worse game.
Yeah, get even or get even worse, folks. So we've got Mississippi State and the Gimme More Cowbells, Mississippi State Bulldogs, Mike Leach there. So, I like Mississippi State minus 11 at Arizona. Arizona's not any good. They're going to finish at the bottom of the Pac-12.
Dude, what happened to them? We got 1 minute. We have 1 minute left.
Yeah,
and what happened to that bear
man.
down defense at University of Arizona? Remember those days?
Yeah, they had some great defenses.
Great defenses.
Yeah, it wasn't too long ago. They had great 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
But, they just had no leadership, man. It starts with coaching in college football. They hadn't had a coaching staff. They hadn't had any coaches that are worth a dang. So, that's why I'm taking Mississippi State minus 11. I think Mike Leach and Mississippi State's going to score some points. So Mississippi State minus 11 is a solid pick there. And last pick here, we got Oregon State, Fresno State. I think Oregon State's going to surprise some people this year. I'm taking Oregon State on the road in Fresno. So I think Oregon State is going to surprise some people. It's a pick 'em. It's a straight pick 'em. So I think Oregon State is going to win, 5 to 6 games this year. They're moving in the right direction. Not enough people are talking about them.
Hey, John, I can't thank you enough for co-hosting with me today and giving out this great information. We're about to get in action. We are 3 minutes away from kickoff.
Yeah.
Before we go, let everybody know if you want to watch our stream, you already know you got to type in the winning ticket 21 in the search. We're on 590 The Fan every Friday night at 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. after Bernie Miklasz. So if you want to hear the winning ticket on the radio every Friday night at 6 p.m., we're live here at DraftKings at Casino Queen every Saturday morning. If you need any information from DraftKings at Casino Queen, it's DraftKings at CasinoQueen.com. I want to thank my guests, Ryan Kinder, Peter Sipple, Clemson John, and this all does not happen with my producer, Russell Sides. My name is David Scharf. Until next week, thanks for watching.